Okay, today we're going to take a little video of the Crandall mechanical scale system. Now, this is of course in the manuals when we sell the machines, but nobody likes to read manuals. This machine is obviously a used machine that we got back to be repaired. It's in good working order, and it's a great example because the scale is wide open and it does not have a conveyor. It's pretty much as simple as these machines can possibly be, but again, it's a good reference point for showing you how to set up the Crandall trip balance scale. And yes, it actually, in layman's terms, actually kind of works like a teeter-totter. On the front, we actually have a little sensor right here, which when the scale trips down, that's what actually closes the filling head. Now, the way this scale works, right now we have a filled can on there. It's a 1-gallon can with water. And if I was to press down on the back of the scale would rise up in the front. And when it comes down as it's filling, the weight increases, the scale trips down on the sensor, closes the filling head. Now, a great way to set this up initially is to take a filled can, and you're going to slowly add weight to the back of that scale. And eventually that scale is going to want to balance out. Now, you'll see this when I start adding the weight. This is what we call a U weight. It's about 4.5 pounds. I'm going to slide that guy on there. You just put it on the pins. And these are smaller round discs. I'm going to add some of these to the pins, and eventually I'll add enough here. You can see it's starting to want to balance, but we'll get it to balance just to show you. And now you can see how it actually balances right out. So now the weight on the back pretty much equals the weight that's on the front. Now I will remove one of these discs and let that scale trip downward. If I had the exact same amount of weight on there, it would likely overfill slightly, because when that fill head gets the signal to shut off, there's still what we call product in motion coming out of the filling head into the container. So I want to subtract one off just for the heck of it to be safe. Now, I'm going to remove the fill pail, or can. Get that out of there. We're going to do a sample fill here. Put an empty on. Turn my air on. That's one thing I forgot to show you. That whole setup was done with the air turned off, so you can actually move the scale up and down. If the air was on, the scale would be locked in the down position. There's also slider weights on here for very fine adjustment. So if I was slightly overfilled, I could loosen this and move that weight slightly forward, and it'll take weight out of the container. Or if I was underfilled, I can move this back. It gives more weight to the back of the scale, puts more weight into the container after it's filling. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to press start, and you can see how the whole operation works. So now when I press start, the first thing that's going to happen is that scale is going to rise up. Now I can press this button once, and it'll simply let the scale come up. And we're going to do it this way so you can actually see how everything works. Now when I press it again, the filling head will open. Your product will begin to start filling. Now this machine also has a pneumatic timer that causes dribble. So once that dribble engages, you can see the product rate slow down. Now eventually, there she goes, trips downward, shuts off the filling head. These machines don't get any simpler than this, and as you can see, it's very accurate, simple to use, inexpensive, and one real nice thing, these machines fit right into an explosion-proof area, as they're all air operated and ready to be used for that situation. I'm just going to go ahead and dump these. Amy's going to show you a little bit more of this machine, then we'll fill a couple more for you. Now, there's a few finite adjustments on this machine that actually work in conjunction with the scale. Now, we have flow controls on here that cause or control the speed in which this little cylinder either retracts or extends. Now, when I want it to retract, I certainly don't want the cylinder to just jam upward, because then your scale would bounce upward and you can cause splashing and other things. And when the scale is finished filling, this little cylinder extends downward to keep the scale in the down position. You certainly don't want it extending at a rapid rate, because it'll jam the scale down. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this, and you can actually see from the front, Andy will show you here, that when that scale rises up, the cylinder will release in a nice, easy fashion. So now I'm filling, and here's also that sensor you can see right here. And you'll see how everything goes down nice and smooth and easy. You don't want it to jam down. You want it to be set so it's nice and easy. And that way you don't have any splashing or problems with that. Now next we also have on this machine a pneumatically timed dribble flow. And inside the control box is the timer that controls the dribble flow. Now this not being an electronic scale, we have to use a time situation so that as soon as we press start and the fill head opens, this timer starts counting. And once it times out, that's what causes the valve on the back of that infeed pipe to close down, and it'll shut your product down to about 20% of its original flow. And you want that timer to engage that dribble flow probably about 3 to 5 seconds before your finished fill rate is done, so your product in motion is nice and slow and steady and not agitated. Also on this little filler is a small regulator. And that little regulator controls the amount of air pressure going to our gap sensor on the front of the machine. Now this little regulator should be sitting anywhere between 3 and 5 psi. You certainly don't want to exceed 5 psi because it operates with what's called an amplifier. And then this is the amplifier right here. And inside there is a little diaphragm. And if you turn it up too high, you'll simply blow that diaphragm right out. And that gets a little costly, so it's always wise to keep it under 5. So typically it's sitting right at about 3 psi. Now we're just going to go ahead and fill another can here just so you can see the system running in. So you're placing your container. This one has a nice little stop on it. Put your container up there. Now you don't have to press this twice. You can simply hold it. Once the head's up, it's going to open and start filling. We're just gravity feeding water. There's your dribble. You can see the motion of the product come smooth. And then eventually it's going to push down the scale and shut off. And again, the accuracy on this machine, being simple, it's still pretty darn accurate. It's plus or minus 0.25% of your target. And again, these machines are inexpensive, keep it simple, stupid, and fit into an explosion-proof area without having to pay too much money. There you go.